Good morning. This is Business Live with me, Ian King. There was more evidence today of the growing value being created in the video gaming sector when Keyword Studios, the Irish video game services group, agreed to buy Nottingham-based Multiplayer Group for £76.5 million. Multiplayer Group, which employs 360 people in 30 countries, works across various aspects of the development of a game, including art, design, software engineering and production. Games on which it has worked include Fall Guys, Mortal Kombat 1 and Starfield. Well, joining me now to talk about this is Bertrand Bodson. He's the Chief Executive of Keyword Studios. Bertrand, good to see you this morning. You partner with an awful lot of the games companies with which MPG works. Is there much of a crossover between what you do?
Yeah, good morning, Ian, and thanks for having us on the show. A lot of natural collaboration. I have to say, the first time we met the MPG team led by Andy Norman, we're very impressed by the quality of the titles they work on, the quality of the global publishers they work on. And if anything, this is going to reinforce what we can do for our joint clients.
So what is it that they do that you can't do at present?
Oh, this is a big space. You know, there's a space where we are the market leader in our space, but we are still have a long, long way to go. What MPG Multiplayer Group does very, very well is live services, and as it says in the names, multiplayer, which is incredibly challenging from an architectural point of view, from an engineering point of view, from a live services, those type of games that never end. So we want to be a leader in that space. We wanted to reinforce our role in there, and MPG does that very, very well.
I think this is your fourth acquisition this year and your 22nd this decade. Are you trying to do too much at once?
I don't think so. I think we're known for doing a lot of bolt-ons over the time. When you look at the ones we've brought on board, they've been great addition to the family. We always focus on two key criteria. First of all, is there a good cultural fit with the Keywords family, while making sure that they can keep their autonomy as well. And secondly, are they world-class in terms of quality? And MPG fits that bill incredibly well. And I would say the other four that we have done earlier this year, likewise.
What do you look for in an acquisition target?
As I said, just two things. Cultural fit, to make sure that they really fit, that we can collaborate, that we can offer more to our partners, to our clients, to the publishers at the end of the day. And two, world-class quality, because that's what primes at the end of the day. And then we look at specificity, for example, in either some geographic footprint where we maybe are not present enough yet, where there is some incredible talent. So this is a great UK story as well, to get MPG to join us. And at the same time, making sure that they're in categories where the world is really going. And live ops, live services, you know, those games like Fortnite, like Fall Guys, like Starfield, those games that never end, are really part of the future as we see it.
And of course, obviously, you have to be pretty disciplined on price. The valuation here was comfortably within the metrics that you look at.
Exactly right. Yeah, absolutely. We are rigorous in the way we do that. We have good formula. We are known for being, I think, a good acquirer, making sure that the management team can make the best of the muscle that Keywords has to offer as well. Our balance sheet, our help, the collaborations between our different studios. In the UK, we have incredible studios like Studio Gobo, for example, like Electric Square, like Climax Studios, so many others that are incredibly strong. They all know each other. There is a natural collaboration. And I would even argue more globally, as MPG is also global, they had a very nice fit with many of our other studios. But absolutely, Ian, the right financial discipline, I think we're known for that, and the markets acknowledge that.
And more broadly, how do you assess the health of the industry just now? I think you said recently that the proposed takeover of Activision Blizzard by Microsoft had led to a bit of a dampening of activity. Are you expecting a bounce back next year?
I think this year we've seen a few headwinds, a few things where we call it the market has been pausing for breath. But we have to remind ourselves that this comes on the back of two incredible years. We were growing at 35% last year, for example. So it's a very natural normalizations where many of our partners are making sure to focus on the right IPs, rightly so, on profitability, which tends to favor us long term, making sure that they pick the right category. Live ops is one of those. So we still have a few things to navigate as an industry, but I see a really bright future here. When you think about, again, the role of live ops, when you think about those incredible productions like Call of Duty and others are something very special. And with Microsoft, also the Game Pass is something quite unique that I think has a lot of legs. So we're very bullish about the midterm, long term, very excited about what's ahead. And that's why we wanted to make sure to get some of the best engineers and the best developers as well in the world to take this on together.
A very positive note on which to end. Bertrand, it's a busy day for you. We do appreciate you sparing the time to chat. Thank you.
A real pleasure. Take care, Ian.
Bit of breaking news to bring you. The Prime Minister has been giving his reaction to Baroness Michelle Mone's admission that she lied about her links to the PPE firm MedPro. She insists she and her husband have no case to answer. This is what Rishi Sunak's had to say about that in the last few minutes.
Well, a couple of things to say. First of all, that this whole situation is subject to an ongoing criminal investigation, but also the government is taking action, legal action against the company involved. So there's a limit to what I can say, other than to say we take all these things incredibly seriously, and that's why the government's taking legal action, and because there's a criminal investigation ongoing, I can't comment any further.
Do you think it's okay, though, for a former Conservative peer to lie about these things and to admit about lying?
What I'd say is the government takes these things incredibly seriously, which is why they're pursuing legal action against the company concerned in these matters. That's how seriously I take it and the government takes it, but it is also subject to an ongoing criminal investigation, and because of that, there's not much further that I can add.
Some other business news stories now to tell you about. And the food and household goods giant Unilever is selling Elida Beauty, its non-core beauty and personal care division, to the US private equity firm Yellowwood Partners for an undisclosed sum. Elida Beauty comprises more than 20 beauty and personal care brands, including Brute Aftershave, Q-Tips Cotton Swabs, Matey Bubble Bath, Timotei Shampoo and the Pond's skincare brand. Unilever first tried to sell the business 2 years ago, but pulled the sale after failing to attract the offers it had been hoping for. It revived the sale process in September this year. Shares of Vodafone have surged by nearly 7% this morning on news it's in talks with several parties over a possible merger of its Italian business or a disposal of it. The news comes after the French telecoms company Iliad proposed a merger of its operations in Italy with those of Vodafone. Under Iliad's proposals, the combination would be a 50-50 joint venture. Vodafone is currently the third largest mobile operator in Italy with a 26.1% share of the market, while Iliad is the fifth largest with a market share of 7.5%. The fantasy games and miniature company Games Workshop has struck a deal with Amazon that will see the latter's content services arm make films and TV series based on its Warhammer franchise. Games Workshop said that under the terms of the contract, it had granted exclusive rights to Amazon. It said the pair would work together for a year to agree creative guidelines for the films and television series to be developed by Amazon. It said the agreement would only proceed once the creative guidelines were mutually agreed between Games Workshop and Amazon. Now, if you were watching this time 2 weeks ago, you will recall that we reported that Saudi Arabia's public investment fund has bought a 49% stake in Sir Rocco Forte's luxury hotel group. The deal valued Rocco Forte Hotels, which owns 14 hotels, including the Balmoral in Edinburgh, the Savoy in Florence and Browns in London, at £1.2 billion. Sir Rocco and his sister, Olga Polizzi, will retain a controlling 51% stake. And I'm very pleased to say Sir Rocco Forte joins me now. Rocco, good to see you again this morning. Now, you weren't actually the main seller here.
No, because we already had a 23% investor, which was CDP, Cassa Depositi e Prestiti, which was the equivalent of Caisse de dépôt in France, which took a 23% stake some 8 years ago. And over the next 3 or 4 years, they'd have had to come out. I'd seen, about a year and a half ago, I'd seen a number of transactions in the luxury hotel market where they were at high multiples. I thought, well, maybe this is the right moment to go to the market. And that's how this deal came about. I engaged Rothschilds we sent out a teaser to about 20 potential investors. And PIF came in and said, we'd like an exclusive. And so they made an offer which made it attractive for us to give them an exclusive. And that's how we've got here.
Now, it's been reported that you're aiming to double in size over the next 5 years. Is that going to be with Saudi firepower, essentially? Well,
to some degree, yes, because a part of this deal is they've invested a significant sum into the company, which gives us more firepower. It'll enable us to accelerate our development program and also accelerate the investments we make into our existing business and to bring, because a lot of the hotels now are sort of 20 years old or more, so to actually do in 2 years what we'd have done in 3 or 4. So it's very attractive for us. This is PIF, a very powerful investor. They're seen as a powerful investor across the world. They've made many significant investments, some in our own industry, and so you're seen as a much stronger entity as a result. And funnily enough, we've had a lot of approaches from developers immediately that we hadn't been in contact before. Most of our development has been in Italy over the last few years, and a lot of the pipeline we have is in Italy. But I think this will actually encourage us and help us to invest further afield as well.
Obviously, they own Live Golf. Potentially, could that involve golf being a bigger part of your offering in future?
Well, we have a big golf resort in the south of Sicily called Verdura, and certainly there may be some potential there. We haven't got into sort of detailed stuff with them yet, but who knows?
Which are the locations that you're most interested in targeting, though?
Well, apart from continuing to consolidate our position in Italy, because we're sort of one of the biggest luxury operators in Italy, and I see my company as having a sort of being able to provide a tour of Italy for anybody visiting it without changing companies. But obviously we're not in the United States. 35% of our business now comes out of the United States, and it would be sensible for us to have representation there. We're not in France at all. I'd like to be in Paris. We're not in Spain, which is actually a very attractive tourist market as well. So those are countries we'll be focusing on in particular.
Now, by some measures, the Eurozone is already in recession. The UK economy is pretty stagnant. Is that having a bearing on how you're trading just now?
No, trading has been very strong, actually. And last year, we had a record year, in fact. And this has been mostly driven by the American market. Americans coming back to Europe in big numbers, and this has continued in the current year. The prospects for next year still seem good. Talking to American travel agents and other travel agents from other parts of the world, they're all saying that they're very bullish about business next year. And also, of course, the Chinese market has opened up again, and that will help. And obviously, having done this deal with the Saudi Arabian entity, I think it'll bring more business from the Middle East to us in particular.
We've had quite a few downbeat trading updates from players in the luxury goods segment, Richemont, LVMH, Burberry, for example. You see travel as being distinct from luxury goods?
No, they're very much part of the luxury market as a whole. And I don't think the rest of the hotel market has been as successful as the luxury sector has. I think what we're now moving into sort of quieter season. There's much less international travel than there is during the tourist season, and we've seen a slowdown in growth over the last few months. And I think that's probably what the luxury goods market is seeing as well.
You still have a hotel in St. Petersburg. Why have you remained in Russia when a lot of other companies have disinvested?
Well, because the reason is that we actually own the hotel in St. Petersburg, and under the sanctions rules, we're allowed to continue to run it. Most of the companies that have left are companies that had management contracts, and therefore, as a result, under the sanction rules, they weren't allowed to continue to operate. And I think they've all done deals to effectively enable them to go back when things change again.
Okay, Rocco.
And they're my staff as much as staff anywhere else. I know a lot of them personally, and I can't just abandon them because of the current situation.
Okay, Rocco, we have to leave it there. Great to see you again this morning. Thanks very much indeed.
Very good to see you.
Well, Friday's gains on Wall Street, where the S&P 500 completed its longest winning streak since November 2017, was followed by a downbeat session overnight for stocks in the Asia-Pacific region. All eyes are on tomorrow's meeting of the Bank of Japan amid speculation it will move away from negative interest rates. Well, in Europe, where on Friday the DAX and the CAC 40 hit all-time highs, here's the current picture. All of the main indices in negative territory. Talking points today include the Dutch chemicals group OCI, which is up nearly 14% in Amsterdam after agreeing to sell an Iowan fertiliser plant for $3.6 billion to Koch Industries. Well, here in London, the FTSE 100 is up nearly 2/3 just now, helped by some of the energy and healthcare heavyweights. The leading gainer in percentage terms is Vodafone, on the news from Italy, of course, while Entain continues to attract buyers following last week's boardroom shake-up. It's up now by 23% since the close last Tuesday. Well, among the fallers, the Mexican silver miner Fresnillo is off nearly 8.75% on the back of adverse broker comment, while Croda, the chemicals group, is off 2.75% after its chief financial officer quit to take up the same role at the engineer Spirax-Sarco. Outside the FTSE, the tech investment firm IP Group is ahead by 7% after launching a share buyback today, but Trustpilot is off 4%. That's after it ran into profit-taking. The shares hit a 20-month high on Friday. On the foreign exchange markets, well, it's been pretty quiet, to be honest. Sterling off 1/4% nearly against the dollar and off nearly 1/3% or so against the euro. The single currency up by 1/7% right now against the greenback. As for the oil price, well, that last week notched up its first weekly gain in 8. This morning, a barrel of Brent crude is changing hands at $77.10 a barrel. That's up nearly 0.75% on the session. Well, joining me this morning is Russ Mould, Investment Director at AJ Bell. Russ, good to see you today. Let's start with Vodafone. This is quite a big deal, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it's following on from talks of a merger with Three here in the United Kingdom, and it's in keeping with relatively new Chief Executive Margherita Della Valle's strategy of trying to find markets where she's looking for what she calls more rational pricing, where I guess the number of competitors go down. They then flatly deny that means higher pricing, but we'll wait for the regulator to perhaps sort that one out. But Vodafone's 4 biggest markets, Germany, Italy, Spain, and the UK, very difficult for them, 4 big players. The markets that are going well for them are generally their smaller markets, which is fine, Portugal, the Czech Republic, South Africa, but they're not big enough to move the dial. So the company's looking for ways and means to try to generate some growth where it can, but it's finding it pretty tricky, and that's why the shares are at a 20-odd-year low at the moment.
Yeah, what I can't understand, though, is why Voda would agree to a 50-50 joint venture when its market share in Italy is that much larger than Iliad's. Yeah,
and you're going to end up with the danger is you end up with a slightly unwieldy corporate structure. If there's a 50-50 in the UK, maybe a 50-50 in Italy. So you end up with what could look like, to some eyes, an investment trust of telecoms asset with a big debt pile. So I think, again, that's one of the reasons why the share price hasn't been responding particularly favourably as yet to Ms Della Valle's strategy.
Now, we've also, on the results front today, heard from Hollywood Bowl, company we've featured on this programme in the past. You quite like the numbers?
Yeah, the numbers were good, and the market's quite happy. The shares are at a 12-month high. Sales up, profits up, dividend up, special dividend, share buybacks are all good stuff. Not just the UK market going well, but their nascent operation in Canada looks to be developing nicely. They've got a roadmap for refurbishing existing facilities and opening new ones. And I guess it's just one of those affordable treats, you know, perhaps the other end of the spectrum from Sir Rocco's hotels, but an affordable treat that still seems very popular with families. We've seen a bid for a rival player, 10 Entertainment Group, from a US firm this month, and it's one of the areas that fits a certain pocket and brings a lot of pleasure to people, it seems.
Yeah, now we've heard this from Games Workshop this morning. I mean, you point out this was first trailed a year ago. It hasn't moved very quickly.
No, and the share price hasn't really responded much today, given that it's been in the incubator for a year. It's obviously a potentially extremely interesting deal for the Games Workshop to get Amazon to do film and TV productions based on its intellectual property. But Games Workshop are very, very protective of their content and their IP. They get very upset if any YouTubers start putting out their own product. And therefore, that's why I think we've now got this next 12 months of discussing with Amazon what the content could look like, how it goes forward. And there's no guarantee it will in 12 months' time, which again may be why the share price isn't moving so much, but clearly the master plan is that it does so.
And briefly, Russ, if you would please, a word on this Croda player transfer almost to Spirax-Sarco.
Yeah, the Chief Financial Officer, Louise Burdett, she's not been at Croda very long. She's hopping over to Spirax-Sarco, where the CFO, Nimesh Patel's gone up to become Chief Executive Officer. It's just interesting that we've now had 31 CFOs leave or change job this year, and there's another 13 or 14 doing so next year. I mean, sometimes it's because they get the CEO job, sometimes it's because they don't, sometimes because they fancy a fresh challenge. But if you look at previous spikes in when a lot of CFOs have left at sort of above average, it's generally when there's been a bit of economic trouble ahead. So we'll see whether their crystal ball's any good or not for next year.
Yeah, very good point, that, Russ. Good to see you this morning. Got to leave it there, I'm afraid. Thank you. Still to come here on Business Live, why the anti-inflammatory pain relief market has seen huge growth in the UK. Stay tuned.
evacuation, you must leave.
For many people, Harvey is far from over. Christchurch has been changed forever by what happened here.
There was a river of blood coming out of the mosque. That's a scene that you don't forget.
Ida has certainly left its mark on New Orleans.
It just feels heartbreaking.
We help you understand the world with us. We are standing on the supply line right into the heart of America's opioid crisis. I've reported from around the world and around the UK. Are you trying to run me over, Sir Philip?
No, go away.
Look like it, sir. Will you respond to those who've made accusations, Sir Philip?
Can you go away?
Joe Biden knows the celebrations are over, and this is a country in crisis.
You don't want to be remembered this way. You always want to be remembered as something positive.
It is almost impossible to predict where these fires will go next. This gives you an idea of the strength of those winds, strong enough to bend and twist metal.
Do you regret the tweet, Gary?
There's no sign, publicly at least, of either side being willing to give ground. How do you reassure the public that all of these mistakes wouldn't be made again? I'm Greg Milam, and I'm Sky's Chief North of England correspondent.
Fly Emirates, fly better. Fly Emirates, fly better. Thank you.
Welcome back. Now, the anti-inflammatory pain relief market has seen huge growth in recent years as the ageing population has led to an uptick in the incidence of arthritis and musculoskeletal injuries. But there's also been an increase in the number of younger people suffering with chronic conditions, all of which has benefited Holy Me, a maker of holistic, organic and natural products to improve pain management that's just announced a major expansion. Well, joining me now is Celine Avari. She's the founder and chief executive of Holy Me. Celine, good to see you this morning. Your background is in pharma. Why did you alight on this particular therapy area?
Thank you for having me, Ian. My interest in pain management stems from personal experiences, from a young age witnessing family members struggling with pain, and then later on in my life, myself struggling with lower back injuries, and doctors' quick fix solutions didn't quite sit right with me at the time, and I took a holistic approach for myself. And that was not only highly effective, but also extremely empowering. And it made me very curious about the human body's abilities and vulnerabilities. I went on to study genetics of human disease, human biology. I worked for big pharmaceutical companies. And I realized that there's a very big problem with the way pain is addressed today. It's a big, massive burden. 1 in 5 people struggle from pain every day. 1 in 3 of those are young generations, 30 years and under, reflecting a heavy use of technology in our modern lifestyle. And so I wanted to really make a difference and address pain in a more caring way.
Has the science in pain relief come on much in recent years?
I think there's a real shift in consumer behavior when it comes to pain management. We understand that the medicinal solutions that are currently available in the market come with a lot of health complications. And there's a growing awareness of that and an awareness of alternative solutions that are healthier and more holistic.
It's a big, big thing, though, to set up your own business when you've been working for a big pharmaceutical company. Was there a sort of eureka moment where you realised, I've got enough here to go it alone?
I actually left pharma to set up a first entrepreneurial project, which is a hair loss clinic in London. And then, again, helping people in my family manage their pains is what really triggered my move towards holistic pain management. And we offer solutions that I originally formulated for family members, and they were so effective, it kind of took a life of its own. And I realized that, you know, people are turning to medical solutions for lifestyle inherent issues, and there's over 5 health complications associated with painkillers. And because these are readily available and over the counter, people assume that they're healthy. But actually, the #1 reason for chronic liver failure in the UK is paracetamol use. In the US, it's Tylenol use. So faced with that, I felt I could really make a difference.
And do you do your own manufacturing?
We have full control over our supply chain, and I formulate the products myself.
Right. I mean, how did you obtain funding to set this business up?
I was really fortunate to have the products that I had already used for close family members and for myself. And I approached investors, most of which had an ache or a pain, and they tried it, found the effectiveness, and funded the company.
Now, you've distributed in quite a number of outlets, including Whole Foods and Harrods. Where would you like to be that you're not currently?
Well, we are excitingly launching in a network of about 700 stores in 2024, and that includes Boots. I think as one of the biggest pharmaceuticals in the world, they're witnessing the shift in consumer behavior towards alternative pain management and have approached us saying that, you know, they really believe we can be at the forefront of that movement.
Yeah, we had Seb James from Boots on the programme only a couple of weeks ago. I mean, does that mean you're going to be aiming to go global in due course?
Absolutely, for sure we will. I think it makes a lot of sense to approach the US market, the rest of Europe. You know, pain has no borders, so.
Absolutely. Celine, got to leave it there. Good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed. That's it from me for the time being. I'll be back, of course, with our afternoon edition of Business Live at 4:30 this afternoon. Do stay tuned. Coming up next, it's Jane Secker with all the latest on that reaction from Rishi Sunak to the revelations from Baroness Michelle Mone over the weekend. Speak to you at 4:30, I hope. Thanks for joining me this morning. Cheerio. Great.